Hi guys, Asmo here, and today I have for you a guide for my Toxic Rain super speedy heist character. A lot of people have been asking for a guide for this character, so here it is. I prepared a couple of POBs. One is for a min-maxed version of this character, and one is for much more budget version of the character. The budget version can be done in less than 10 divines. I think I counted like 7 divines of total cost, and this expensive version I think I've put around 90 divines into this character, something between like 80 and 100, but roughly 90 divines. So you can do the cheaper version first, and then as you are doing heist, gear up and do the faster and tankier and also more powerful version of this build. So basically the idea is that we want to run heist, we want to be as fast as possible, we want to pretty much never die. Like I die like once per day pretty much. Like if I die once per day, nothing bad happens, but this is softcore, right? So we don't want to invest too much into survivability, but I still want to be making sure that I'm not dying in heist, because you lose your loot when you're dying. So I do invest in tankiness decently well in this character, and that's why without any effort, while playing in a playstyle that pretty much doesn't kill monsters too much, I still managed to hit level 97 in a few days with this character. So this character just doesn't die, you just get naturally XP, and it's very comfortable to play. We were able to reach around 500 bonus movement speed, 500% bonus movement speed, which is insanely fast, about 8 million DPS with 5 pods overlapping, and this is definitely sufficient to do everything that this character needs to do, and the main purpose is to just do heists as efficiently as possible. People have been doing heists on characters that get like 500 something movement speed, but they're not able to kill anything, they're not able to clear their maps, they're not able to, like, if something goes wrong, you're fucked. Like if your totem dies because the mobs have too many mods or something, then your decoy totem is not able to stop the monsters from like killing your rogues, and you waste time. I find that character, that playstyle, not really fun to play. I find it much better to be able to kill my own stuff. On this character, before I made a bunch of upgrades, I killed the Eater of Worlds, for example, for myself, right, to get my own watchstone. So the character can do that if you invest into it a little bit. I'm gonna go basically over the gear, I'm gonna go over the Ascendancy and passive skill choice, and I'm gonna go over all the gems. So everything is going to be explained in this video, as well as the budget options. So first, let's look at the min-maxed version and basically what is the goal, and then later I'll tell you what are the other cheaper options that we can also replace them for. So to start with, I'm going to talk about the gems and the gem choices. So the gem choices, basically we're using Toxic Rain, we're using Phantasmal Toxic Rain because I am using Ashes for multiple different reasons. I'm able to get away with using Phantasmal Toxic Rain, and this gives me 9 additional arrows. So we're firing 10 projectiles. You can see this is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 pods would overlap over here, but on average, wherever I'm pointing a cursor, there will be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pods that overlap as you look at it. So 5 pods overlap is usually what you get with this on single target damage with the main skill, and that's why we are using Phantasmal Toxic Rain. Also, we don't invest in AoE, but it still allows us to get pretty decent coverage. You can see like half of the screen is covered in the pods, so that is pretty useful. Then we got Awakened Void Manipulation. You want to get this to level 5, which gives you the +1 to the level of socketed Chaos Skill Gems. Then we got Efficacy, Mirage Archer, because we want to rely on like hitting things while we're running, right? We basically run around, and our Mirage Archer is just going to be just hitting stuff as we do it. It slows enemies, it just applies the debuff, right, and it helps us run through everything very safely. Then we also have the Awakened Vicious Projectiles and Empower as high level as you can afford. I still have level 3 Empower here. You want to get, of course, Awakened Empower level 5 if you want, then you can have a lot more damage, but this is what I have right now. This is the main damage setup, and then we also have Ballista setup. We got Toxic Rain, we got Focused Ballista, which allows us to scale the hits with like the attack speed, right? So we stack these, and then we're shooting a lot more projectiles, and every single one of this that hits, we got like 70% chance to hit or something. It applies Wither, right? So Wither is being applied through this. We got Efficacy for longer duration of it as well. We got Ballista Totem, and we've got Awakened Vicious Projectiles because it doesn't have the penalty of the less attack speed, right? Because it scales the attack speed whenever we attack, it attacks, right? So this is the Totem Ballista setup, which applies Wither. Then we've got our auras. For the auras, we linked them to Enlighten. We got 3 big auras. That is Grace, that is Determination. If you can, you want to run Divergent, which is going to give you even more armor because we are stacking a lot of evasion. And then we've got Malevolence. Anomalous one is a little bit better because it gives you even more skill effect duration, and skill effect duration works with this character very, very well. So we've got Malevolence, Determination, Grace, very simple setup. And then we also had Defiance banner as well as Clarity. The Clarity here, level 1 Clarity, is for the Watcher's Eye, which is giving us additional minus to the mana cost while affected by Clarity. So that's why we're running Clarity in here. Then we've got the Speedy setup. So we've got Phase Run together with Enhance, together with Increased Duration. Increased Duration is necessary in order to maintain 100% uptime of the Phase Run. So this is really, really helpful. And then, of course, the Enhance is allowing us to get the extra quality for the Phase Run. I could potentially swap Clarity to here, put Flame Dash in here, and this quality would also be affecting Flame Dash, giving me like cooldown recovery rate or Flame Dash distance if we get the alternate quality. But honestly, I very rarely use Flame Dash, only like once every like 4 blueprints or contracts. I will use it once to hop over like a gap or something like that, and that's it. Very rarely we use it, so it doesn't really matter that much. And then in the helmet I get cast when damage taken. With Molten Shell, I could use Val Molten Shell, right? I could use Val Molten Shell. I actually freed up a hotkey for this, so I could do that. And then basically that's it when it comes to the gem setup. Then let's talk over the gear. The gear is very straightforward. The first thing, the main thing that we are basing this on is like Queen of the Forest and the Vodos, right? This is of course going to give us a lot of movement speed. Queen of the Forest, I prioritized resistances because I knew it's going to be a little bit tough to fit in all of the resistances, so I definitely recommend doing that. I linked it myself, prioritize resistances, and the evasion is nice, but we have way more than we need. Then we've got the Vodos with the Grace enchant. I recommend getting one of the large aura mana reservation efficiency enchants on these. So you want to get either Grace or Malevolence or Determination, one of those 3. After that, we've got the Torrence Reclamation. So for Torrence Reclamation, this is going to be like a late upgrade. As soon as you like basically fix your resistances, you're going to be able to change your belt into this. And the best implicit, because you can just buy corrupted, right? Because the implicit normally is like stun recovery, something like that, right? So we want to get like movement speed and attack speed during any flask effect. So this can go up to 12% increased movement speed during any flask effect, and that's what you want on the Torrence Reclamation. There's also some mod for Malevolence, a bunch of stuff that you want to look into and see what's available currently on trade. Other than that, we got the Ashes. Ashes are one of the more expensive pieces, and if you're playing on a budget, you're not going to be using Ashes, you're not going to be using one of the large auras, so probably you cut Determination or Malevolence. This is like a luxury thing. Normally Toxic Rain does not want to use Ashes. This is not like Toxic Rain item. This is an item specifically so that we get extra quality for things like Phase Run, for example, right? Because Phase Run gets movement speed per quality. So the more quality I have, the more movement speed I get from the Phase Run. That's one of the reasons why we're running Ashes, right? And overall, it's just a very useful amulet to have. This is like my first character that I'm actually investing some currency into, so I bought this because I can move this to further characters. In terms of the anointment I have on this, it's freedom of movement, saves me a couple of passives, gives me 10% movement speed, 40% evasion, very, very useful. Other than these unique items, we have items that are rare. So the bow, number 1 bow, the first bow that you can use is going to be Quill Rain. You can use Quill Rain 5 link or 6 link, but with Quill Rain you're going to run into mana problems and you're going to have to use Enduring Mana Flask. So this is something very important. I put it in the POB with the Quill Rain so that you know the Mana Flask has to go with this. You can also use just a simple +3 bow, so +1 to level of socketed gems, and then +2 to level of socketed bow gems, or the craft +2 to level of socketed support gems. Either one you get with some extra like damage over time multiplier or attack speed is gonna be good. You can get a cheap bow like that for 1 to 2 divines and it's gonna be totally fine. Once you want to upgrade to a big boy bow, you can look at my guide for crafting the bows. I'm going to link it in the description as well, or you can simply buy it for like 10 to 11 divines. It's basically going to be the same price as crafting it, so I decided to buy it to save myself the time. The way you craft this bow is basically you first roll for the suffix of damage over time multiplier, then you lock then you fill in the suffixes, right? And you craft cannot roll attack modifiers. You exalt and you hunter exalt. So you're gonna get the +1 to level of socket gems, and then you're gonna get the increased chaos damage over time modifier of one of the tiers. And then you multi-craft and get the +2 and chaos damage over time multiplier. Everything is explained in the video in more detail. Then we've got a Quiver. Quiver is also very difficult to craft these days. It's basically essence spam lottery, and you're going to do this while also crafting other quivers. So I would recommend either buying this, which I did. I bought this for like 24 divines, or you can craft this yourself, and you can go to Craft of Exile and look for the combinations of fossils, and you want to make sure that you're crafting something that also could potentially roll maybe fire damage over time multiplier, so you can sell it to the explosive arrow builds with like attack speed, fire damage over time multiplier, something like that. But what you're looking for on this Quiver is mainly the movement speed, which is a hunter prefix, so it goes up to 10%. So that's another thing that we're able to get just because we're playing a bow build. So 10% movement speed implicit, 10% movement speed prefix here. Then you're looking for life, and you're looking for dot multi, so damage over time multiplier with attack skills and chaos damage over time multiplier with attack skills. And other than that, you want it on a base that gives you attack speed, because attack speed is something that scales our skill very, very well as well. So that's basically the Quiver. When it comes to the rings, one of them you want to have Amethyst ring with curse enemies with despair on hit, and the other one Amethyst ring with life resistances and attributes. And basically these are pretty simple to craft yourself. The way you craft this is you get a level, I think 82 at least, but if you want a T1 resistances, then you need item level 84 base, and you make sure it's hunter influenced base. You can slam a hunter exalted orb if it's cheap, whatever is cheaper, either slam hunter exalt or buy the base with the influence on it already. And then you're going to spam intellect essences or strength essences, because we need one ring with an int roll and one ring with a strength roll. So I spammed the intellect essence until I got the despair and one other decent res. So I got a T1 lightning res with it as well. So you're looking for 3 good suffixes, including the essence that you're forcing, which means you basically are looking for the despair with some decent res. And if you hit that, then you can proceed to craft your prefixes, and you do this by crafting suffixes cannot be changed. Then you're going to use Veiled Chaos Orb, and after using Veiled Chaos Orb, you're going to block mana, so you're going to craft some kind of a random like +2 mana, lowest tier like +2 mana, and then you're going to unveil, and it's going to be basically guaranteed life, right? So it's going to be life plus regenerate mana per second, which is also very, very helpful for this build. So you're going to have that, and then you might have also another prefix there randomly from the Veiled Chaos Orb. Most of the time you're actually not going to have any other prefixes. You just craft non-channeling skills minus mana cost, and then if you have still an empty prefix, you can slam an exalt, and whatever you get, that's what you got, right? Increased elemental damage with attack skills is what I got, and it doesn't really matter. And you can catalyze this first. You only need 15%, I think, quality for life and mana modifiers in order to push this -7 to total mana cost to be -8 to total mana cost, right? So the breakpoint, I think, is 15%, right? And you can catalyze this ring before you craft it. The second ring, very similar. You're looking for strength from an essence and then 2 good resistances. You can even look for bases that have this already, and if they have like shitty prefixes, it doesn't really matter. As long as they have one empty suffix or one empty prefix or one crafted prefix, you can craft the suffix is going to be changed. Veiled Chaos Orb, unveil life after blocking the mana, craft the minus mana cost, and then slam exalt for the last modifier if you still have it open. And that's basically how I crafted this ring. The cost of these is going to be like it's going to be like maybe 5 divines to craft this, maybe like 3 divines to craft something like this, right? Then we've got boots. Boots are very, very important. For budget version, you're going to be using a series step, but if you want to upgrade your character and you want to actually be able to not use the avatar of the veil and instead get the extra frenzy charge and frenzy charge generation, which is going to add you like a huge amount of damage, then you want to craft ailment avoidance boots. The way you do that is you get a pair of boots, ideally with like a fractured T1 resistance. So I got sling boots with fractured T1 fire higher res. Then I spam the essence, which is, I think, Loathing, right? It's this one, Deafening Essence of Loathing, which gives you the chance to avoid elemental ailments, guaranteed. And then basically you only need to hit one modifier, which is T1 of another resistance. Whatever res you get doesn't matter because you can flip it to another resistance through harvest. So you just get T1 res on the suffix and make sure that there is like one empty prefix. And again, we're going to do a Veiled Chaos Craft. So we do suffixes cannot be changed. Then we block life, which means we just simply craft life on it, and then we unveil, and we're hoping for movement speed as well as increased movement speed if you haven't been hit recently, because this happens for like large portion of you running and heisting. You're not going to be hit recently. That's why we have like 10% here, 10% on an enchant, and then we got 10% here. So we got tons of movement speed if we haven't been hit recently, because it actually applies to us most of the time. So this probably is going to take on average like 3 tries, so it would be like 6 divines for just the suffixes cannot be changed, and then 3 Veiled Chaos Orbs. But if you get the other ones, you can simply just replace the craft, right? Suffixes cannot be changed instead of the life, and just try again with the Veiled Chaos Orb until you get the right movement speed that you want. And then the last prefix, it's either going to be there from the Veiled Chaos Orb, or you just exalt it on and you craft life, and that's it. And then the implicits, which you get from the Searing Exarch and Eater of Worlds currency. You want to get chance to avoid elemental ailments. You can get the lowest tier possible. It doesn't really matter because you're going to have enough. As long as you have 50% on the boots, you're gonna be fine, right? So I have like 34 on the suffix and then 18 on the prefix, and that is giving me 52, right? So I have at least 50, and that's all I need. And then the other one, you can get either action speed, which comes from the Grand Searing Exarch, or you can get movement speed as well. Either one is fine. I think action speed is a little bit better, so that's what I would be aiming for. 5% is the one that comes from the Grand, and that's what you're aiming for. And then you can run lava a few times and enchant the boots with 10% increased movement speed if you haven't been hit recently. And there you go, you have amazing pair of boots. If you wanted to buy something like this, let's see if anything like that is even available. So we got resistances, life, movement speed, we've got chance to avoid elemental ailments, it doesn't even exist, right? So you cannot even buy this shit, but it's very simple to craft. It's gonna cost like 10 divines on average, or a little bit less. And then the last item is the gloves. Very, very simple. Just fit whatever other resistances you need. Get a little bit of spell suppression so that we can get 100% spell suppression, and then get chaos damage over time multiplier or rage gain on a hit, something like that, right? And that's all you need from the gloves. There is nothing else that you really need on them. And that's it when it comes to all of the items. Flask is just mana flask, amethyst flask with increased attack speed. Then we've got granite flask with evasion. Then we've got we can also get it with armor, with whatever you want, like increased armor, increased evasion on these flasks is really good. I got increased armor on the quicksilver, increased evasion on the granite, and then I got reduced effect of curses on me, which is also a very nice mod. That's basically it. Now let's go to the passive skill tree, which is going to be basically very, very straightforward. We are moving to everything that has movement speed, and then we're putting 2 cluster jewels in, right? So basically I can actually go to POB right now. Let's go to the POB, look at the tree. Let me make sure I'm on the right screen. Yep. Okay, so what you want from the Ascendancy, right? Early on, you're going to be running with the Avatar of the Veil until you have the boots. But basically, we're picking the Onslaught effect, we're picking the phasing, and we're picking the Wave of the Poacher. We don't want to pick the Avatar of the Slaughter, really. Like, I wouldn't pick this on a heister unless you're running like Farrell's Fur that can sustain your frenzy charges permanently, because you don't want to rely on like hitting or killing enemies. Everything you have, you want to have it available. Like, you want to be fast in town, you want to be fast in your hideout, right? Speed in hideout is what you kind of care about, right? You really want to be fast without hitting, without killing anything, because we're going to be heisting, we're going to be ignoring monsters a lot of the time. So we're moving down here, we're grabbing the movement speed from Avatar of the Hunt. We're grabbing the extra 1 to maximum elemental resistances and ailment avoidance from here, so this gives us 30%. This life wheel gives us another 20%, that is 50, and then the remaining 50 we got from the boots or from Avatar of the Veil for the ailment avoidance. We got Onslaught effect, we've got 1 cluster jewel setup, so you want large cluster jewels with Unholy Grace. Unwaveringly Evil, and Wicked Pal. Those are the best 3 notables. They cost like 1.5 divines, something like that. And then we also want Enduring Composure. Here I also have Replica Conqueror's Efficiency, which really helps us. The skill effect duration is very nice. It adds some damage, and the -9 to total mana cost is very helpful because we definitely need help with mana a lot on this build. But if you can fit all the minus mana stuff, like the crafts on the jewelry, plus this jewel, plus the Watcher's Eye, you're going to be able to just sustain your mana permanently without mana flask or anything like that. Here we got movement speed, cooldown recovery of movement skills, which helps our phase run to come off cooldown faster. And we've got a little bit of spell suppression because we need that extra spell suppression to cap it. Then we are moving through this spell suppression. We're picking up some life, and we're picking up extra life. Here, a bunch of spell suppression, movement speed, and this is the Transcendent Spirit spot. So this jewel costs like 3.4 divines, I think, right now. Before that, you just slap whatever other jewel, like you slap your Replica Conqueror's Efficiency in here, which is like 20c, and you still keep this pathing except for like this one node. But once you have this jewel, this one node is important here. We need to allocate every single node that has dexterity in here, because if we don't allocate it, then we're actually getting -2 movement speed, right? So every single node gives us movement speed. So this gives me how much? Where does it say? 28%. Okay, so this gives me 28% movement speed. That is probably also because it's also multiplied by the action speed modifiers and so on. But this is a very, very powerful jewel. There are other spots where you could also put it. You could put one in here as well and grab this dex, maybe go into here. You can use like Unnatural Instinct, grab this movement speed as well. And then there's another spot you can grab it in here, and that's going to give you extra movement speed. So you can grab like another 25 ms here. You can grab like 18 or so ms here, so you could grab even more movement speed if you wanted to drop some damage. Then we're moving to another cluster jewel setup. So this is the basic cluster jewel setup that you need to go and aim for first. It's not that expensive. It's like half of your cost of the build early on, but it's very, very important. So again, Wicked Pal, Unwaveringly Unholy. And then we got Wicked Pal with Eldritch Inspiration. So Eldritch Inspiration is going to give us more mana and more mana regen, which is going to allow us to sustain the mana and alleviate some of the mana problems. So both of the medium clusters are like this. And on the small cluster, you want to fill in. You're always going to have like a little bit of strength or int or resistance issues that you can fill in with one of the jewels. And basically you want like life. I needed some strength, and then I put also reduced mana cost of skills, which gave me like -1 to mana cost. And I got even a crappy roll. This is like 10c jewel or something like that. And then we've got a Watcher's Eye. On Watcher's Eye, what you're looking for is movement speed while affected by grace, and non-channeling skills have -7 to total mana, well, minus whatever. This is like basically between 5 and 10, I think, to total mana cost while affected by clarity. So this could be divined much better. You can also get Malevolence, like damage over time multiplier while affected by Malevolence. That's another powerful mod that you can combine with either of those, or all three would be like a GG Watcher's Eye, but that's very unlikely to be something that you can afford or find. So 2 of these 3 modifiers would be good. We're moving through the Hunter's Gambit. We've got the Grace Reservation, this reservation node with Charisma. Once you got 40% Chaos Resistance, you can pick this Chaos Mastery for the damage over time multiplier per 4 Chaos Res. This allows us to get extra Intelligence if you're lacking some int, and then we're getting Duration and getting 5% movement speed here as well. And that's basically it when it comes to the passives. Now, since I'm in POB, I'm gonna move into the other POB, which is the budget one. So you can see like I got price breakdowns, but this is at the time of me recording this video. I went on trade and I searched every single item, and I wrote the prices, like estimated prices of buying these items based on the searches today. So maybe it will change in the future, but right now this character, this budget setup was set up with like 7 divines worth of gear, right? So even on the budget, even if you're playing on the budget, you still want to get the cluster jewels, right? This is within this like 7 divine budget. These cluster jewels are very, very important. They give you so much damage, so much utility. You get endurance charges, you get the mana recovery, you get so much damage, attack speed. This is very, very important. Other than that, the changes are that we are, instead of the second cluster jewel setup, we're picking up the nodes up to the Master Fletcher for the attack speed, and then we're also putting Replica Conqueror's Efficiency instead of the Transcendent Spirit, which is Transcendent Spirit itself is like half of the cost of this entire build, right? So this is the budget setup. Other than that, the pathing is basically the same, and you're gonna have a very easy time of swapping from one to the other. And then in terms of the gear, so I'm gonna show you, we're using a regular Toxic Rain, not Phantasmal, so you can get it cheaply. We're not using Empower, we can use Cruelty or even go on a 5-link, right? That's something you can do as well, but you can do Cruelty or you can do anything else that fits here, or like low level Empower, whatever you can get. Then we've got the setup with the Ballista Totem. Again, could be a 5-link as well. You just cut the last gem, either Efficacy or you cut Vicious Projectiles. Then we've got Grace, Malevolence, and a lower level Vitality instead of Determination. So because we're not running Ashes, because we don't have an enchant on the helmet, and we don't have Enlighten, we have to drop one aura, and we would drop the Determination or the Malevolence. I decided to drop the Determination in here because the characters should still be fine and have an easier time running Heist in this setup. And then we've got Despair on hit ring, we've got Phase Run increased duration, no enhance, and Val Molten Shell with cast when damage taken setup. For the items, we got Quill Rain, and you can either get Quill Rain, you can see we got 2 million DPS, and if I swap to a simple +3 bow, it's like 1.8. So either Quill Rain or this. Quill Rain will have some mana issues. This bow will not have mana issues, and this will probably be a little bit cheaper, like a 6-link bow with like +1 to socketed gems, +2 to socketed bow gems, and simple like chaos.multicraft or attack speed craft. That's very, very simple bow you can get for 1 divine. Then we've got the Quiver, life and resistances, that's all you need. The Voros, which will cost you 1 chaos. Queen of the Forest 6-link, which will cost you like 2 divines. Life and resistances gloves with some spell suppression, no implicits on it either. Then we've got at series step, you can enchant it yourself, it will cost you like 30 chaos. Then we've got Amulet, Life, Res, and maybe some damage over time multiplier, and you're looking for Strength and Intelligence. And then we got a Ring with Despair, a little bit of Life, Int, Essence, because that's how you want to craft this, right? So even if you're just doing a budget version of it for yourself and you're not going to hit an extra Res on it, that's fine. Still just craft it with Int until you hit like Despair, and then you craft Life or -2 total mana cost. Another Ring, you again craft with Strength Essence until you get some Res and Life, and then you can craft on it from the bench -2 mana cost. Stygian Vice. Stygian Vice allows you to get a jewel that can give you like life, damage over time while wielding a two-handed weapon, and also like movement speed if you haven't taken damage recently. A jewel like that costs 5 chaos on trade. And then again, life resistances, could craft it with like a chaos res essence, and you're gonna get a Stygian Vice like that cheaper than you can actually buy it on trade. Then we got flasks, so we got Enduring Mana Flask, we've got Life Flask, we got Quicksilver, Jade, and Granite. So we're dropping the Chaos Res because we can get a little bit of extra Chaos Res through using Stygian Vice instead of the Torrence Reclamation. And then we got the jewels, which I already talked about, and that's basically the setup. So this is the budget setup. The budget setup gets a little bit less survivability because it doesn't have Determination. It has also 4 times less damage, and it has 200% less movement speed, right? 200% fewer or whatever. The other one has 200% extra bonus movement speed. But this is basically the budget setup. This will work totally fine for doing T16 maps, for clearing your contracts, your blueprints, and without your character dying. Most of the time, right, you still have to, there's still some player skill involved. You have to avoid the damage whenever necessary, right? For example, if you roll your blueprints, if you roll your maps with some dangerous mods, then you have to be a little bit careful. But overall, I got to level 97 on this character very easily, and I die like once a day running the contracts and blueprints. Everything I run is like T16 item level, zone level 83, right? So that's basically it. Hopefully this has been helpful. The character is very, very fast and fun to play. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Both of the POBs as well as the links to the videos for crafting the bow will be in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.